As you have heard, I'm Miriam from Kenya, and I'm going to address the issue of vulnerable populations from the point of view of marginalized rural communities and urban slums. When we talk about rural communities, sometimes you get the impression that people think that these are very few people. But the latest data shows that rural communities are still 48% in Southeast Asia. They are 62% in Africa and 36% in the Pacific. So all the other areas of the world have at least 20% people in rural areas. So we do have a substantial population in rural areas. Secondly, when we talk about of the rural people, how many of them, what proportion do the rural people contribute to the people who live in poverty? You find that people who live in poverty, who are in rural areas, contribute substantially to the percentages of the poor in the world. And so you find that in the population in rural areas, 80% of the population of East Asia, 80% is actually in poverty among the rural people. In the Middle East, it's about 70%. In Africa, it is about 65%. In sub-Saharan Africa. And so you see, the rural are a substantial community of people, and the poor among the rural is very high. So if you looking at who are poor, you find that the poor are predominantly from the rural areas. Secondly, you find that the poor are also very substantial in the urban slums. In terms of population, urban slums contribute something like, in Asia, urban slums have more than 500 million people who are poor in Asian slums. And in African slums, you have something like 71% of the population of the urban slums are in Africa, the people who are living in urban slums. So we are dealing with a very substantial population. So these people, who are they? These are poor people. And as we have heard earlier from the speakers, especially Professor Sen, poverty breeds vulnerability in health. So if you are poor, you are likely to be poor, to be unhealthy. If you are poor, you are insecure. If you are poor, you tend to be isolated. And so the question becomes, why are you poor if you are in a marginalized slum? Why are you poor if you are in a marginalized community?
Miriam.
The main reason is that people who make decisions don't see you. So as far as people making decisions in the capital cities, you are faceless, you have no face, you are invisible. So in a way, you don't exist. And in many of the population, in many of the policies, and in economic development programs, frameworks, you don't find poor people accounted for. They are invisible. They are not seen, they are faceless, and they are not included in official data. So you find that these people, because they are excluded from the urban slums, you just find that they are not accounted for. They don't, in a way, it's like they don't matter. That is what our policies are saying. And so we have to look at how we can take care of addressing the health of the marginalized rural communities, as well as those who are living in urban slums. Thank you.